Mia darted through the crowded streets, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The bakery shop owner's angry scowl haunted her, and she could almost hear the woman's sharp voice yelling into the phone. The thought of being thrown back into jail filled her with dread, not because of the police, but because of the harsh life that awaited her behind those cold, graffiti-marked walls. The other inmates were older, rougher, and more seasoned at street survival. To them, Mia was just a kid who could be bossed around and burdened with the dirtiest chores, washing the floors, cleaning their trays, fetching water. It was never ending, and the humiliation stung worse than the hunger she felt on the streets. Freedom, however hard it was, still tasted better than that life. She zigzagged through the market area, weaving between vendors and shoppers, hoping to lose the bakery woman in the chaos. She turned a sharp corner, her thin shoes skidding on the pavement, and found herself in a narrow alley. She paused to catch her breath, peeking out from behind a dumpster. Mia crouched low, waiting, her sharp eyes scanning the main street for any sign of the woman. She didn't spot her immediately, but Mia wasn't one to trust easily. She stayed hidden, thinking about her next move. The pastries were worth it. The bakery's leftovers were a rare treasure, a taste of a life Mia barely remembered. The sweetness of sugar, the fluffiness of fresh bread, and the buttery softness of croissants made her mouth water, just thinking about them. To her, those cast-off treats were more than food. They were a fleeting glimpse of comfort, something warm and soft in a world that was hard and cold. But the bakery woman didn't see it that way. To her, Mia and her friends were pests. She never once thought about how hungry they might be, or how even her trash could mean survival for them. Instead, she called them nuisances and chased them away like stray dogs. Mia bit her lip, fighting back frustration. She wasn't a thief. She didn't sneak into the shop to take anything. All she and her friends wanted were the discarded items, the leftovers no one else wanted. Was that too much to ask? Still crouching, Mia glanced back at the main street. The coast seemed clear for now. She couldn't see the bakery woman anywhere, but she knew better than to let her guard down completely. People like that woman always had a way of showing up when you least expected them. Her stomach growled loudly, and she winced. She hadn't eaten all day, and the gnawing hunger was like a claw inside her, sharp and unrelenting. She needed a plan, a way to get to the bakery's trash without being caught. Mia decided to wait until dusk. By then, the bakery woman would likely close up shop and go home. The streetlights would flicker on, and the shadows would be her ally. Until then, she'd keep her distance, maybe look for other scraps to tide her over. As she sat there, plotting and waiting, her thoughts drifted to her friends. They were a ragtag group of kids, all living under the same bridge on the edge of town. Some of them were barely older than Mia, while others had been on the streets for years. They stuck together because they had no one else, and though life was tough, they had a bond that kept them going. Mia thought about their faces. Tommy, who was always telling jokes to make them laugh, even when things were bleak. Sarah, who had a knack for finding water bottles and keeping everyone hydrated. And little Benji, who was only 7 and looked up to Mia like a big sister. She had to bring something back for them. They were all counting on her. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Mia moved cautiously through the alleys, keeping to the shadows. The bakery was just a few blocks away, and she wanted to scope out the area before making her move. She approached from the back, where the dumpsters were, and hid behind a stack of crates. The bakery woman's car was still parked out front. The lights inside the shop were on, and Mia could see the woman moving around, wiping down counters and locking up. Mia's pulse quickened. She just needed to wait a little longer. When the woman finally left, slamming the shop door behind her and driving off in her car, Mia felt a rush of relief. She waited another few minutes to be sure the coast was clear, then crept toward the dumpster. Carefully, she lifted the lid, her heart pounding in anticipation. Inside, wrapped in wax paper, were the pastries she had been dreaming of. There were a few croissants, some stale muffins, and a small loaf of bread that looked only slightly burnt on one side. It was a feast by her standards. Mia quickly grabbed what she could, stuffing the food into her worn backpack. She glanced around nervously, half expecting the woman to reappear or someone else to chase her off. But the street was empty and the night was on her side. As she ran back toward the bridge, her bag heavy with her prize, she felt a small sense of triumph. It wasn't just about the food. It was about surviving, about finding a way to keep going, even when the odds were stacked against her. But Mia had no idea that her actions tonight would lead her to something far bigger than a few pastries. This was just the beginning of a story that would change her life, and the life of someone she hadn't even met yet, in ways she couldn't imagine. Mia navigated the dark streets with the ease of someone who knew them better than the back of her hand. Each corner, each shadow was familiar, and she could have walked the path with her eyes closed. Humming softly, she clutched her bag of scavenged treasure, a haul of discarded pastries, and imagined the delighted faces of her street friends. The thought of their joy filled her with a rare sense of pride, a fleeting warmth in the cold, unforgiving world they called home. As she passed one of the gleaming cars parked on the curb, the kind owned by wealthy men who barely spared people like her a glance, a hushed conversation froze her in her tracks. The voices came from the shadows nearby, low and venomous. At first, she dismissed them. Nothing to do with her, just more of the rich plotting their dramas. But then, she heard the name, Lucas Cole. Her ears pricked at the mention of the man she knew only through whispers and a crumpled magazine page she had once used to wrap her scavenged food. Lucas Cole, the golden boy of the food industry, the youngest billionaire on Forbes' list, and the creator of snacks too luxurious for someone like her to taste. She didn't care about Lucas Cole, not really, but something about the tone of the men's conversation made her stomach tighten. She edged closer, pressing herself against the cool metal of the parked car, her breath shallow as she listened. One man spoke with a wicked edge to his voice, a sharpness that made her heart race. "It's all set," he sneered. "Tonight, I'm taking over the food and snacks industry for good. Lucas Cole won't see it coming. The snacks he's delivering to seal his big deal tonight? Poisoned." Mia's blood ran cold. The man let out a cruel laugh, the kind that seemed to echo in the still night air. "If everything goes as planned," he continued, "not only will Lucas lose his business, but everyone who eats those snacks tonight will suffer. His reputation will be destroyed, and as the second best in the industry, all those deals will fall right into my lap." A second voice joined in, gruff and affirming. "The production manager swapped out all the snacks, just like you asked. I paid him a year's salary. He won't dare fail. By the end of tonight, congratulations will be in order, Mr. Moore. Your brother's empire will be yours." Mia's jaw dropped. "Brother?" The man in the shadows was Lucas Cole's brother? Moore's voice grew even colder. "He's not my brother. He's just my parents' other child, the one who took the life that should have been mine. Tonight, I'm taking it back." Mia's hands trembled as she clutched her bag tightly. The sheer malice in Moore's words left her shaken. Not only was he plotting to destroy his own brother, but innocent people would also suffer, their health at risk from the poisoned food. The betrayal was monstrous, and it made her chest ache with anger and fear. Lucas Cole was the type of man everyone envied. Known as a genius in the world of business, he had climbed to the top through grit, ambition, and a relentless drive. His wealth was unimaginable: private jets, sprawling mansions, and businesses that spanned the globe. Yet, his success came at a price. Lucas was feared more than respected, and his ruthless reputation left no room for trust or genuine friendships. Her first instinct was to run far away from this tangled mess of wealth and deceit. What could she, a street girl, possibly do to stop this? But the thought of the people sitting in that fancy restaurant, unaware of the danger, stopped her. The restaurant, Continental Meals, was just a short distance away. She knew the place well. It was where the city's elite gathered, and the dumpsters behind it were a gold mine for someone like her. She couldn't ignore what she had heard. I have to warn him, she thought, the idea making her stomach churn. She doubted Lucas Cole would believe her, let alone let her get close enough to speak to him. But she couldn't let that stop her. The stakes were too high. Clutching her bag tighter, she turned on her heel and bolted, her feet pounding the pavement as she ran. The world blurred around her, the dark streets becoming a tunnel as her focus narrowed on one thing: reaching the restaurant before it was too late. Her legs burned, her breath came in ragged gasps, but she didn't slow down. The weight of her discovery pressed heavily on her, but so did the urgency of her mission. Lucas Cole might be rich and untouchable in her eyes, but tonight he was also a man in danger. A danger he didn't even know was coming. And if she didn't act, the night would end in ruin. Not just for him, but for everyone at that table. Mia ran faster, as though her legs alone could outrun the terrible events about to unfold. Her heart pounding in her chest, as though it were trying to escape. The weight of her bag of pastries seemed insignificant compared to the urgency in her mind. She had overheard something dangerous, wickedness cloaked in shadow, a betrayal so cold it left her trembling. Lucas Cole, the billionaire she had only seen in discarded magazines, was about to walk into a trap that could ruin his life and destroy many others. And the worst part? The mastermind behind it all was his own brother, Moore Cole. The darkness of that revelation sent chills down Mia's spine, but she had no time to dwell on it. The fancy restaurant, Continental Meals, was just a few blocks away. Mia knew the area well. She had often scavenged behind its dumpsters, hoping for a scrap of high-class leftovers. Her feet pounded the pavement as she ran through the dimly lit streets, weaving between parked cars and dodging the occasional pedestrian. Her mind raced as fast as her legs. What could she even say to a man like Lucas Cole? Someone so wealthy and powerful would never listen to a street girl like her. She had no proof, no evidence of the poison plot, just words she had overheard in the dark. But she couldn't let that stop her. If there was even the slightest chance she could warn him, she had to try. The lights of the restaurant came into view, bright and glittering against the night. It looked like another world. Shiny cars lined the street, and doormen stood in crisp uniforms by the entrance. Mia hesitated for a moment, her nerves getting the better of her. She was dirty, her clothes torn and stained, and she clutched a backpack filled with scavenged food. She didn't belong here. But then she thought about the cold laughter of Moore Cole and the poison-laced snacks meant to ruin his brother. She thought about the people in that room, unsuspecting and at risk. Mia pushed down her fear and sprinted toward the entrance. As she approached, the The doormen spotted her immediately. Their eyes narrowed, and one of them stepped forward, his hand raised to block her. "Hey, you can't be here," he barked. Mia didn't stop. "It's important," she shouted, her voice breaking with urgency. "I have to see Lucas Cole. It's about the food. It's poisoned." The doormen exchanged skeptical glances, their expressions hardening. To them, she was just another street kid trying to cause trouble. They didn't move aside. Mia's heart sank, but she refused to give up. She darted to the side, trying to slip past them, but one of the doormen grabbed her arm. She struggled, kicking and twisting, desperation giving her strength. "Let me go," she cried. "You have to listen to me." Mia's heart pounded as she felt the iron grip of the doorman tighten around her arm. Panic surged through her, but so did determination. She couldn't let them stop her, not when lives were at stake. She twisted and turned, pulling with all her might, but he held firm. "Let me go," she screamed, her voice raw with desperation. The glimmering hall beyond the entrance taunted her, a world just out of reach where Lucas Cole remained, blissfully unaware of the danger he was in. In a surge of adrenaline-fueled instincts, Mia aimed her knee and drove it hard into the doorman's groin. He let out a guttural groan, his grip loosening as he stumbled back. Without missing a beat, Mia yanked her arm free and bolted toward the entrance. Shouts erupted behind her as the other security guards sprang into action. "Stop her!" one of them yelled, their heavy footsteps echoing in pursuit. Mia didn't look back. She slipped into the hall, her small frame weaving through the crowd of well-dressed guests who gasped and murmured at the sudden chaos. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above her, and the scent of expensive food filled the air. But Mia didn't have time to notice. Her only focus was finding Lucas Cole before it was too late. The sound of the guards closing in pushed her forward, her breath coming in ragged gasps as she darted past startled servers and confused patrons. She had no plan, no strategy, just the unwavering determination to stop a disaster from unfolding. The commotion drew the attention of people inside the restaurant. Heads turned, and a few of the waitstaff came to the door to see what was happening. Among them was a man in a tailored suit, his expression one of mild annoyance. He was tall and sharp-featured, with an air of authority that commanded attention. Mia recognized him instantly from the magazine cover. It was Lucas Cole. Chaos erupted. Security rushed in, executives muttered in shock, and Lucas's advisors demanded to know how the girl had gotten this close. Lucas himself was furious, his carefully curated evening ruined. Yet something about the girl's desperation made him hesitate. He signaled for the commotion to stop. For a moment, she froze, her courage faltering. But then she remembered why she was there. This wasn't about her. It was about saving him and everyone else in that room. "Mr. Cole," she shouted, her voice cutting through the murmurs of the crowd. "Please, don't eat the food. It's poisoned." Lucas frowned, his sharp eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. The doorman tried to dismiss her, muttering about calling the police, but Mia's desperate words seemed to catch his attention. He raised a hand, signaling them to stop. What started as a cool evening in the heart of New York City, with Lucas preparing to finalize the biggest deal of his career. At this exclusive restaurant, the Continental Meal, the kind where crystal chandeliers sparkled above and every plate was a work of art. Seated at a table, surrounded by his advisors and the executives of the company he was acquiring, Lucas exuded confidence. This deal would cement his position as one of the most powerful men in the business world. Just then, the waiter approached with the first course, a beautifully plated dish of delicacies flown in from around the world. The best money can afford, Lucas couldn't help but feel a moment of satisfaction. Everything in his life was under control, but that illusion shattered in an instant. "Let her speak," he said, his tone calm but commanding. Mia's heart raced as she found herself face to face with the billionaire. She quickly explained what she had overheard, stumbling over her words but managing to convey the danger. She told him about more coal, about the production manager who had been bribed, and about the poisoned snacks meant to ruin his business. Lucas listened in silence, his expression unreadable. The people around him looked skeptical, some even amused at the idea of a street girl warning a billionaire about a plot against him. But Lucas wasn't a man who dismissed things lightly. His success had been built on sharp instincts, and something about Mia's urgency struck a chord. The girl, panting and clutching her side as though she'd run a long way, repeated her warning. "Don't eat it, it's poisoned." He ordered the food to be tested immediately. The next hour was a blur of activity. Security locked down the restaurants, and samples of the food were sent to a nearby lab. Mia stood off to the side, clutching her backpack and feeling out of place among the polished crowd. When the results came back, the truth was undeniable. The snacks were indeed poisoned. The revelation sent shockwaves through the room, and murmurs of disbelief filled the air. Lucas turned to Mia, his expression serious. "How did you know?" he asked. She told him everything: the bakery shop, the dark alley, the conversation she had overheard. As she spoke, Lucas's sharp features softened, a flicker of gratitude and something else, respect, crossing his face. Mia didn't stay long after that. She didn't feel like she belonged in Lucas's world even after saving his life, but she left knowing she had done the right thing. For Lucas, the night was a turning point. He had narrowly escaped a devastating betrayal, and it was all thanks to a street girl who had risked everything to warn him. It made him question not only his brother's actions, but his own. Immediately after confirming Mia's warning, Lucas wasted no time. He ordered the immediate arrest of his production manager and his brother, Moore. The betrayal cut deep, not only as a professional attack, but as a personal wound. Knowing his own blood would go to such lengths to destroy him. As the legal proceedings unfolded, Lucas couldn't shake the thought of the young girl who had saved him from ruin. He knew her name, Mia, but little else. Her courage and quick thinking had not only saved his life, but also countless others that night. Lucas resolved to find her. He scoured the city's homeless shelters, combing through records and asking questions. His search took him into corners of the city he had never seen before, places filled with stories of hardship and resilience that left him deeply unsettled. The stark contrast between his life of abundance and the lives of those struggling to survive weighed heavily on him. When he finally found Mia, she was huddled with her street friends in an abandoned building. The sight of her, the girl who had risked everything for a man she didn't know, stirred something profound within him. Her surroundings were bleak, a harsh reminder of the world she lived in every day. Lucas couldn't leave things as they were. He wasn't just grateful to Mia. He felt a responsibility to her and to others like her. He made arrangements to sponsor her education, giving her the tools to build a future beyond the streets. But he didn't stop there. The conditions he had witnessed during his search inspired him to establish a foundation for the homeless. The initiative provided shelter, education, and opportunities for those in need, ensuring they had a chance to escape the cycle of poverty. For Lucas, it was more than charity. It was a way to honor Mia's bravery and repay the kindness she had shown him. Over time, Lucas became like a big brother to Mia. He encouraged her to dream beyond the limitations of her circumstances and guided her as she navigated her new life. Mia in turn brought a sense of purpose and humility to Lucas's world. The moral of the story is that true wealth lies not in material possessions or power, but in the kindness we extend to others and the connections we build through compassion and trust. Mia's selfless act of bravery saved Lucas and countless others, proving that even those with the least can have the greatest impact. It also taught Lucas that life isn't just about success or wealth. It's about using privilege to uplift others and create meaningful change. In the aftermath of the incident, justice was served. Lucas's brother, Moore, and all those involved in the scheme, including the corrupt production manager, were arrested and sentenced to lengthy prison terms. The court proceedings revealed the full extent of the conspiracy, shocking the public and reaffirming the importance of integrity in both business and personal relationships. For Lucas, the experience was transformative. He no longer saw his wealth as merely a measure of success, but as a tool to make the world better. Through his foundation and his bond with Mia, he found a new purpose in life, one rooted in kindness and fairness. Mia, in turn, discovered that even the smallest voices could create monumental change, inspiring her to dream beyond her circumstances and embrace the opportunities before her. The story reminds us that compassion and courage can bridge even the widest gaps between people, and that true wealth is found in the lives we touch and the good we bring into the world. Kindly like and subscribe to this channel to support more inspiring stories like this. Let us know in the comments what lessons you've learned from the story of Lucas and Mia. Was it about the power of kindness and courage, or how true wealth comes from helping others and building meaningful connections? We'd love to hear your thoughts.